Hello, this is Teach Smith, and if you're worrying about how to remember all the different themes and ideas and arguments for all of these different literature texts, I'm here to tell you there is one way to remember all of them. Power unites Macbeth, A Christmas Carol, and In Spectacles, and all of the power and conflict poems by theme. There are lots of different themes that are subcategories of this, but in a way, power unites all of them. Let me explain. Past questions across the literature texts have asked about guilt, ambition, relationships, family, fear, loneliness, etc. However, in your essay, you can immediately make an argument by discussing the power of these themes. What is the power of each of these themes, and why does the author explore the power of them? Because essentially it's about the human experience. And In Spectacles, the power of the inspector over the other characters, the power of Mr. Burling to fire Eva Smith, the power of Sheila Burling to have Eva Smith fired, the power of Gerald to manipulate Daisy Renton, the power that Eric physically uses to force Eva Smith, the power that Mrs. Burling uses to have the committee reject Eva. Through power, Priestley explores responsibility, class, gender, money, capitalism, socialism. Think about how each character uses their power and why in relation to the question focus. Always go back to that. But the power of that theme, that power of that character. To give a specific example, this is a great quotation from Sheila. He's giving us the rope so that we'll hang ourselves. Sheila is talking about the power of the inspector, but she's also talking about the power that the Burlings and Gerald have used. The rope signifies the things that they have done and the things that they confess to. And this power of execution as well. Is that an appropriate punishment even for some of the things they've done? Is that ever an appropriate punishment? Within one quotation, several themes can be explored. And obviously as well, within this quotation is Sheila's development from an immature girl to a mature woman. Macbeth, we have Duncan's failing power. He is a good and wise king, but he has a blind spot. He outsources his strength to other warriors, and that is his downfall. And that is why he's attacked at the start of the play by the Norwegians and by traitorous Scottish lords. The witch's power. They cast a spell right at the start of the play. Fair is foul and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air. And that spell arguably sets in motion all of the other events of the play. Macbeth's power. He starts as a brave warrior, he becomes a tyrant, and ends up a dead butcher. Banquo's power. Remember, he literally has Macbeth's back in the battle. Perhaps things wouldn't have been won without him, and that's perhaps forgotten. He stands up to the witches, and he's sceptical. He doesn't give in to their power. Perhaps slightly, as he hopes that their prophecy will come true for him, but he doesn't give in the same way. He's sceptical, he's reasoning. And even though he does die, he allows his son to escape, and as a ghost he warns Macbeth, perhaps, to stay away from his son. Malcolm as the future king. Malcolm starts with a divine right, but not much else. You can argue that he needs to learn hard lessons. He learns hard lessons of justice through the murder of his father, through his interrogation, Machiavellian tactics with Macduff, and he learns hard lessons in the battles at the end of the play, but becomes a great king as a result. Macduff's power. Macduff sacrifices his family in service of Scotland, but he is the only one who was untimely ripped from his mother's womb. He is the only one who is able to kill Macbeth, and he does it in an honourable way. He does not stab Macbeth in the back, but says, "Turn, hellhound, turn," and does it honourably. Lady Macbeth's power. The power she has over Macbeth to manipulate him, to insult him, to push him towards killing the king. Remember, Macbeth has all those arguments against killing the king, but Lady Macbeth uses awful imagery, such as calling him a beast and saying she would have killed their child if she had promised to do so. And guilt. Guilt is a massive, massive theme, but again, it's the power of guilt over Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. All of Neptune's oceans will not wash the blood from Macbeth's hand. Lady Macbeth thinks a little water will clear them of this deed, but ends up All the perfumes of Arabia will not wash this little hand, or will not cover the smell of the blood. Macbeth is talking about power here. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown and put a barren sceptre in my grip. But it is true that you can link it to ambition, because he knew his ambition was a vaulting ambition. It would not succeed, and it hasn't succeeded. And this shows the power of the witches, because he believes their prophecy that his line will not be kings, and that Banquo's line will be kings. It shows the power of paranoia. It shows the power of trauma, the traumatic event of killing the king Duncan, and how it leads Macbeth to kill his best friend, or hiring murderers to kill Banquo. A Christmas Carol. The power that Scrooge has as a wealthy moneylender. He has so much potential at the start of the novel to change others, but he's solitary as an oyster. Perhaps because there's a pearl hidden within, he can change other people's lives. The power of Fred's Christmas spirit. He's all aglow with Christmas spirit. It's in contrast to Scrooge. They're in the same family, but they could not be more different. The power of Bob Cratchit's Christmas spirit. Scrooge pays him so little, and yet he remains positive, he remains optimistic, and even gives a toast to Scrooge, the founder of the feast. Marley's ghost sets Scrooge off on a kind of hero's journey. It's his call to adventure, the warning that will be visited by spirits, and the warning that if he doesn't learn the lesson, he will end up like Marley. Christmas Past has the power to take Scrooge back in time, and Scrooge is forced to watch and to listen. The power of Scrooge's memories, the school child, the feeble fire, interactions with Fezziwig again as a contrast with Scrooge, the power of seeing Belle again, and how Belle says, I've been displaced by a golden idol. Christmas Present, giving blessings to all, lifting people up, showing Scrooge how not just the Cratchits, but people in lighthouses, people in mining communities, people at ships at sea, all try and keep a Christmas spirit despite those difficult conditions. The power of society to produce ignorance and want. Ignorance and want are the products of Victorian society. They're products of a terrible poverty and a terrible society. And that's what Dickens wants to change. And that's what Dickens is saying to Scrooge as a character, but also to the reader and to society. Power of the ghost of Christmas yet to come, showing him, Scrooge, his terrible future. What will happen if things don't change and Scrooge doesn't change? And how he will end up dying alone and creating misery throughout his community. And by the end, the wonderful transformative power of Scrooge's charity and generosity, how he lifts others up. And that's what Dickens wants for society, for those who have the ability to lift up others, for them to do so. So this is Dickens' message. Poor children have no chance in life in Victorian society, or very, very little. A lack of education, a lack of healthcare, a lack of nourishment leads to many of society's ills. And Scrooge as a character has the power to change that, but society has the power to change that. That's the point. Dickens wants A Christmas Carol to be a message of change through the Christmas spirit. And finally, power and conflict poetry. Tyrants, Ozymandias, My Last Duchess. Nature, Exposure, Ozymandias again, Kamikaze, Storm on the Island. Guilt, Poppies, Remains, War Photographer. Memory, Emigre, Poppies, War Photographer. Grief, Poppies, War Photographer, Remains. Time, Ozymandias. Tissue, perhaps. Objects, Tissue, Ozymandias, My Last Duchess. Propaganda, Exposure, Bayonet Charge, Charge of the Light Brigade. Power of Belief, Tissue, Kamikaze. Power of the King of Queen, the power of the church, the power of culture. Think about all of these different things, what they can link to. Yes, of course, you could get a conflict question. But what is the power of that conflict? What is the power of conflict? What is the devastating effect of conflicts? And of course, we have 15 poems. But, just taking one example, watching we hear the mad gusts tugging on the wire. In that one quotation you have the power of the weather, the power of nature, mad gusts. You have perhaps that this is not just a live experience but a memory, so the power of memory. You have the power of trauma or PTSD, because again, if this is being remembered and maybe the wind is triggering this memory. Again, you have powerlessness. Even that's something else you could talk about, how someone feels powerless in the face of such forces. As someone feels powerless in the face of nature, or powerless, like in the prelude, or powerless in such overwhelming conflict, the war machine. Just a final tip from me, if you go to the community tab on my YouTube channel, you'll find 30 multiple choice questions. 15 are from the Power and Conflict poems, the rest are from a variety of texts, and each question has a model paragraph attached to the right answer. This has been Teach Smith. I really hope this video has been encouraging, has helped you revise, has given you a bit more confidence for next week. If it has, please give it a like, please share, please follow, subscribe, and have a look at the other videos available here. I sincerely hope this video has been helpful, and thank you so much for watching this video. Goodbye.